Join Director Doug as he spans the globe by sea, by land, and air to bring you the best of Figures in Action!
What were they like?
These were fairly small events. There was another one down at Fort Lauderdale. We would have one or two British licensees who were prepared to travel, and one who was an agent for W.H. Allen, who a kind of distributor, and he had all the Doctor Who books. So they would be selling merchandise. But they were a good advertisement for the series, and they got the fans in. And people who wanted a license knew they could come along and they'd be able to meet somebody from the BBC who would be able to talk to them and decide whether a license was relevant or not. So it was good. I would say the one in Colorado had about 400 or 500. It's fairly modest stuff, and it hadn't been on TV for that long. The one in Fort Lauderdale had circa 1,000. There was, that was for the first time that I was meeting die-hard fans of science fiction, shall we say. They happened to like Doctor Who, so that's why they came along. But there was one guy who was dressed up as Dracula. And he got the cape and the fangs and everything, and going around the whole time. And yet he'd be trying to have a conversation with me quite reasonably, and saying, and I said, well, what do you do for a living? Are you an actor? Oh no, I'm a submariner with the US Navy. So I hope he didn't go around the submarine, rather close quarters, I'm sure. That, for me, was an insight into the fan clubs over here. I'd been to the British one, but there was only the one, Doctor Who Appreciation Society in Britain, and they probably never attracted more than about 300 or 400 people, even though millions watched the programme. But that's because we're not so much into fan clubs. We don't do fan clubs in a big way in Britain. Probably there's more now these days than there was in those, but remember that's sort of about the mid-70s. I got to know the chairman of that, Mark Sinclair, very well. He was a good friend, and one of the things he told me was, there's a cottage industry building up here, and I found it was the same in Britain. Now, if that's a term you're not familiar with, let me explain. I mean, we all know what an industry is, and I was looking to license major players, Milton Bradley's, Kenners, people like that in the toy trade, and some big names in clothing. That wasn't as easy as it might have sounded, but nevertheless, that's what my job was to do, and back in Britain as well.